Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
What happens in Vegas goes all over the world on Black Entrepreneur Experience, episode number 223. Subscribe to our mailing list to receive weekly updates and exclusive content delivered right to your inbox. Go to drfrancesrichards.com. That's drfrancesrichards.com to subscribe to our mailing list and be entered into our monthly drawing. That's drfrancesrichards.com, drfrancesrichards.com to subscribe to our mailing list and be entered into our monthly drawing. We promise we won't spam you or sell your information. Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black Entrepreneur Experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. A leading poet of our times, a renowned playwright and performance artist. Welcome, Jessica Care Moore.
Wonderful. Hi, good morning.
You know, I've given our audience such a brief bio. Why don't you fill in the gaps and share with our audience what you'd like them to know about you and your business?
Oh, wow. So my name is Jessica Care Moore, and I am a poet. I am the CEO of More Black Press. I've been running a small press to support poets since 1997. I started the press in Brooklyn. I'm the executive producer of Black Women Rock. It's a 16-year-old institution that I curate and executive produce and host a very large rock concert series that supports Black women in rock and roll. It's an annual event in Detroit, but we've headlined at the Apollo Theater, San Francisco Yearbook Winter Center for the Arts twice in a year, Pittsburgh Jazz Festival, the August Wilson Center. So it's a traveling show. It's an empowerment weekend. And so more than just an entrepreneur, I'm more of an institution builder. So that's more the core of what motivates me. I'm not really motivated by money. I'm motivated by filling a void in my community, seeing a space that needs to be filled, trying to elevate Black voices that are underserved. And that's what I've been doing besides writing poetry for the last 25 years. I've been just curating and making space for other artists.
So you and I are in similar fields. You're making space for artists, and I'm making space for entrepreneurship, for
Yes.
entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs across the globe. Talk about COVID-19 and how you've had to pivot to help give voice during this pandemic and to keep, even though you said you're not driven by money, we know that we need money. So how are you helping these artists sustain during this time?
Well, I had to put the oxygen mask on first. So I had to figure out, for one, let me just say that for COVID in a place like Detroit, where we are a very concentrated Black community here, 45% of the population, were the ones who were affected by all the cases in Michigan. We're only, I think, 14 to 15% of the Michigan population, but we were hit hard, 45% of us. And of the deaths were in the Black community, I should say. And so that was hard first. I've lost people. So first, the shock of just losing people, several people within just 1 week or within 2 weeks' time, losing people. And then I lost all my gigs. All my shows got canceled, my tour was extraordinary. The things that I had planned all over the country and even outside the country were pretty magnificent. One being like Susan Taylor was hosting a beautiful event for me in New York City. And so I was really sad. And then I had to snap out of it because I have a mortgage and I have a child. My son King is 14 to take care of. And so I took to online, and it wasn't something that I was naturally doing. I wasn't a person that had ever gone Facebook Live. I never went Instagram Live. It was something that I just didn't want to do. I'm consistently on the road, and I'm always around people giving. So when I come home, I am private, Scorpio recluse, and I'm at home. And I like to I don't want people in my space. And so I had to change that. I had to get more open and say, okay, Jessica, this is where you are. So find a way to get to the people. And that's what poets must do. We have to get to where the people are, and the people were online. And so here I am. Money-wise, it's been difficult because the money I'm used to making for an appearance is much different than what people want to pay for an online experience. So had to start turning people down after, well, I had a book coming out. So my book came out, We Want Our Bodies Back, March 30th on HarperCollins Amistad. First Black woman poet on HarperCollins since Gwendolyn Brooks. So a really big honor, really big shoes to fill. Amazing moment for me in my career, and how I'm grounded and can't go talk to the people and can't do book signings. So I had to shift and go. I wanted to support independent Black bookstores. So I had Source Booksellers events, which is in Detroit, Black woman-owned spot. Sankofa Books in D.C. I knew the Garimas for most of my adult life, and Doc Bookshop in Dallas. So independent revolutionary bookstores, Revolution Books in New York City, Black-owned bookstore in Chicago. So I wanted to support independent booksellers. And so I needed my book to sell. I needed people to know my book existed and to keep that We Want Our Bodies Back in people's minds, even though I couldn't travel. So I started traveling virtually. And so I've been virtually touring. And I've done shows in Dubai. I've done a techno festival with Carl Craig in the UK. I did a keynote at the University of Wolverhampton last month. I've been traveling. There's a film out based on my poem, the title poem, We Want Our Bodies Back, called Our Bodies Back. That was produced by Sadler Wells Dance Company in the UK and directed by Jonesy D and choreographed by several women across the world that choreographed a choreo poem to my poem and turned it into a film. And so, I found ways to start creating and collaborating with people in ways that I wouldn't have had time to even do if I was on the road. Normally I'm on the road, I don't even have time. I've been, recording nonstop. And to make a living, I had to start saying no, though. There was a point where I had to just start turning down small honorariums so that people could understand that, okay, I have to make a living and I can't say yes to $500, which is a panel discussion, fee when I'm used to making $10,000. It's basically puts me in poverty. It makes me unable to pay for my home and for my living expenses monthly. And so, I had to get on unemployment and figure it out. But the thing that I did start doing, which has helped me stay moving, is I started doing what I call corporate storytelling, and which has been very interesting shift for me and something that I talk about. And as a poet, everyone is into that. But I got an opportunity to work with some nonprofits in town, the Boys and Girls Club. I just wrote the National Association of Minority Architects. I just wrote a poem piece for them. I'm helping corporations tell their stories, and I'm good at it. Like I'm able as a poet. It's different than a kid that's gone to school for marketing and branding. Like I know how to help a business get to the heart of the community and the heart of their story. And I've been using poetry to do that. I wrote the Ford Motor Company, Michigan, their new home is Michigan Central. They took over the train station in Detroit a few years ago. And I wrote their new, I guess it would be considered their ad campaign. But I've taken my skills as a writer and had to shift saying, okay, well, maybe not just poems. Maybe, I'm writing copy for ads and voicing. So not just a voiceover artist, but also writing and creating the story for these corporations that I feel connected to. It can't just be anybody, but Boys and Girls Club, yes. You know what I mean? Strategic partners, Black-owned business in the community, yes. National Association of Minority Architects, easy. I can do it. And so if I feel, and I'm from Detroit, so I've done a couple of things with Ford Motor Company. It's kind of a no-brainer for me with things that really represent Detroit and represent Blackness in a way that exemplifies Black excellence. And so I've been doing some of that to help me sustain myself. And it's been a blessing to be able to do that work and for people to be asking me to do it. That wouldn't have happened, though, I think, if it wasn't for what's happening with the other pandemic of racial injustice. And, some of these corporations and people had to kind of wake up and say, okay, we got to make sure we're serving the people correctly. And who better than a poet to help them try to connect? And that's what the job of the poet is to be that liaison between community, to have their ear to the street. And then writing about Detroit is just something easy to me. I love this place. It shaped me. And I've lived in New York and Atlanta and traveled all over the world. But this city and this place has made me the poet and the person that I am. So it's easy for me to write about this place. Yeah.
Jessica, what can we do right now to support your business?
So to support me directly, it's jessicacaremoore.com. That's so I've been publishing books since 1997. And so my books are online. I would say skip over Amazon and just go straight to jessicacaremoore.com. And that you can get copies of Sunlight Through Bullet Holes, God Is Not an American. That's my third and fourth book that I definitely have in stock. And I would like to sell those books that are sitting in these boxes. So the third and fourth book needs support. And I also have vinyl records. In 2015, Talib Kweli got a record deal with my dear friend and put out my album, Black Tea. And so we have vinyl and CDs available. I have Black Women Rock masks that I'm only selling a limited number online, and the rest I'm giving away to Black women businesses once I make my money back. So they're just like $12 or something like that. I think they were $10, and then there's some shipping costs. So yeah, that jessicacaremoore.com is the place. And then, following me on Instagram is awesome. Everything is under my name on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And so, yeah, but, and then We Want Our Bodies Back is available everywhere. I don't sell that book, but that book selling is important to me. And it's my strongest collection of poetry, I think, since God Is Not an American. And I really want people to have it. It's an important piece. It's an important piece for Black women and for Black girls especially, and especially for the right now. But all of my work has been speaking to this moment in time. For many of us, like what happened to George Floyd and what's happened to Tamir Rice and what's happening and not happening to Breonna Taylor's case and what happened to that sister, in her home is not new for us. But, the other people have woken up a little bit more. And I think just because we were all sitting down and watching it, but, that ain't the first time some white police officer took somebody out with a knee. I remember being in Ferguson when Mike Brown was killed, and I went there with Talib Kweli and Rosa Clemente and met our friend Seth and the Peace Poets, a group of us all, lots of us from New York and other places, just kind of converged on Ferguson. That changed everything for me. Nothing has been the same since Ferguson in this country to me. I don't know why the shift didn't happen then, but I think it's because of COVID, because people were sitting down and looking at YouTube and the news more than ever, that something just clicked. And so, George Floyd is a hero. He actually championed this in his death, unfortunately, some of this movement that's happening. So, but my work has always been that since, my first book came out in 1997, The Words Don't Fit in My Mouth. And I started my press in my Brooklyn apartment by myself. I was a journalist by trade, and I didn't know how to publish books. But I called people like Kwame Alexander, who had an independent press there, and he's become a very successful young adult writer now and publisher in his own right. And Paul Coates from Black Classic Press, who I actually still print books with now to this day, who's also a Black-owned, press and printing house. He prints lots of Walter Mosley's books. And so I reached out to these other folks, asked them about my Baba Hakeem Matabuti from Third World Press, Black book publishers, like I say, support them all. Go to Third World Press and buy some Third World Press books too. That we have to support these entities and these Black-owned businesses that keep Black voices elevated. Those spaces that other publishing houses, they ignored our voices for such a long time. And I waited. We Want Our Bodies Back is my fifth book. But for some people, it's the first book they're seeing from me. But because I was on an independent Black press, my own press, but still More Black Press is a reputable press, I wouldn't get the reviews for my book. I wouldn't get any, and I had so many reviews for We Want Our Bodies Back. They've all been amazing. To be in Essence several times, to get the reviews from and write up some places that I never got any love, but it's about positioning. And so that's why I did it. That's why I decided to give this collection to a larger press. And what a perfect time for me to do it, because now the book is distributed everywhere and my friends in the UK can order it. And distribution is the Achilles, of independent book publishers. And so it's the Achilles of everything, from music to, the internet has, Jackie Vincent, who's a really incredible guitar player who I have brought to Detroit many times and to San Francisco for my Black Women Rock concert, said something interesting about, independent artists and leveling the playing field. And she's really taken advantage of being online all the time and getting on YouTube and doing concerts. And it's helped her career in some ways. I got more followers online than I did before the pandemic, for sure, but I'm online way too. I can't stand it, to be honest. I'd rather have less followers and more time with real people. And it's never been, I care how many followers I have and all that, just not something I care about. I miss the human connection. I really do. But, a lot of us are making the best out of it. It's been a lot of the summer I spent every month in Yellow Springs, Ohio with Dave Chappelle, in community with my artist friends from New York City, Talib Kweli, and many of us that came through. I mean, everybody who's everybody from John Mayer to Chris Rock. Shout out to Donnell Rawlings, my dear friend and comedian who's amazing. And we went down there and created some community in a place called Yellow Springs. It's a 3-hour drive for me. And that was my only stage I performed on the entire pandemic, was in the middle of a cornfield that Dave Chappelle created. and he's just been amazing in my life in general. My son King is a young poet, and he's open for Dave. Did 2 sets with him, and he was just like 9 or 10 reading his poems to like 3,000 people. And so that's something that I learned during the pandemic, is that the power of artist community, and the power of us coming together to say, we're going to create space so that we don't go crazy and that we can feel connected to people. So,
Jessica, what are you most grateful for right now in your life?
I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful that my son is healthy. I raised my son vegetarian most of his life. He's now 14 and he wants to eat some things called fish. So he's more of a pescatarian now. But for the most part, we're vegetarian. We don't get sick, often, rarely get a cold. And so I'm blessed with knowing about women like Queen Afua and very early on learning about self-healing and having things in my kitchen, your kitchen being the place that where you heal yourself, not going outside. Your kitchen should be the place where you heal your family, and so things like apple cider vinegar and black seed oil and, sea moss and stuff like that people talk about are things that are always in my kitchen. Those are regular types of food, staples like water and fruit. And so I think that I'm grateful for that information, because it's unfortunate that that's not widespread. But I'm grateful for my health and my mother, who is fighting cancer. So I'm grateful that she's been able to stay okay during this pandemic. We're scared all the time, not wanting to get sick and staying more, people, I'll go out and people want to give me hugs and I'm having to explain that I just can't, like I love you, but I can't. It's like for my mother, I have to stay safe. And so, yeah, so I'm grateful that my immediate family has been healthy, but I've lost people that are family to me, and my friends have lost. My best friend has lost her sister, and Maria, and my friend Sabrina lost her father, and Thomas, and my friend Brenda Perryman is gone, and my friend Marlo is gone. Like, if I start doing the list, I'll cry in your interview. So let's just say that I'm grateful that I'm healthy,
And our sincere sympathy for your loss, for all the loved ones and your friends. So our sincere sympathy for that. Talk about self-care. What does self-care look like for Jessica?
Well, it's hard. It's funny because I would like try to take moments to just be, which is funny. A friend of mine just texted me and said, I told him I was tired. And he said, just be you and you'll be fine. So I'm trying to take time my patio has become my sanctuary. So I have a beautiful patio that I built in the backyard. Oh, I didn't physically build it, but I paid for it to be built. And it's become my saving grace. I go out, especially when, it's Detroit, the weather is changing. We've had 70 degrees all week, which has been crazy. But most of the pandemic, I've been able to go outside and literally just listen to birds and to be quiet, to be still, to get off of these computers and this MacBook Pro and the iPhones, and to unplug. Sometimes I dance, like in my living room. The DJs online, like shout out to the DJs. God bless the DJs. And then my vinyl record player, just lighting my candles and burning my sage and listen to my records. And, my writing is my job, but it's also my healing too. And so I'm blessed to always have that as a go-to. But yeah, I need more sleep, and I'm trying to do self-care. It's a struggle for a person like me. I'm very busy and I always have something that I have to do. And so making that time, I just have to veg out sometimes on a silly Netflix series. Like I just do that sometimes for myself. Like just do something that's not deep and not just something just to make the time go past, a funny romantic comedy. Sonia Sanchez always spoke to me about, comedies boost your immune system, and sometimes it's just a friend. Like I have during this pandemic, it's been deep because I normally don't have time for long conversations. And so I've gotten closer to a few friends of mine that I loved already. And now I love them more and I know them more. And shout out to you. I'm not going to say his name, but he's just a friend of mine that has like swooped into my life. And I don't know, like the conversations have been really good for me. It's an escape from all the things. And I don't know. Yeah. So just being able to do something silly, like have a real good conversation, like helps me feel better. And so, yeah, but I need more. I probably need, not good at, I stopped going to get pedicures and manicures. I think I've had 2 the entire pandemic because I'm just playing it safe. But learning how to paint your own nails, I bought myself a little spa for my feet so I could sit in there. And so, yeah, but just taking that time to love on yourself and to appreciate yourself. And like, just going to my favorite little coffee shop and getting my little chai tea and little small, just it's the little things in life anyway, right? That really keep you going. And so just making sure to honor myself. I could use some more rest though, but I'll get some at some point.
Speaking of rest, what, if anything, keeps you up at night?
The rain. Last night I couldn't sleep. My imagination, my brain is always moving, and I'm a poet, so I'm always thinking of stories. Yeah, sometimes it's just I can't get off the phone with a good convo. That's been a reality for my pandemic. It's just like music. Sometimes I'm just up listening to music and playing my vinyl records, but writing keeps me up. I write at night. I write in the middle of the night. Last night I was writing at 1:00 in the morning. I was on my computer writing. And sometimes I'm reading and but the brain is, that's why I'm able to create my life. I literally created, I think Maya Angelou, and I always quote her wrong, but said that I made myself out of my imagination. And so my brain is always thinking, and that's why I'm able to write books and write plays and create, is because as a creator, you're always kind of creating. Even when you're being still, you're thinking. And so I'm a thinking person. So it keeps me up at night. Sometimes it's not good. I need to go to sleep more. But most of my friends, I know a lot of my artist friends, especially who are already kind of nocturnal creatures, are struggling with sleep, right now. The election went in a way, shout out to Detroit and Pennsylvania, and Philly especially, and shout out to Georgia, our sisters down there doing the great work to try to shift the energy of this country. I think that kept us on edge. This is the last few weeks. I know many people haven't slept in general, just waiting for a transition in power. And I don't think that Biden and Harris are like my saviors or anything like that. Not like the Democratic Party's got to take care of all of us. That's ridiculous because we have so much work to do and so much has been uncovered. And, I'm very clear that, for me, like Donald Trump he's only one person. He's one person and he didn't create racism. He really did not. He's helping it along. He's giving it some space, the way we give space to other beautiful things. He's giving it space and empowering that. And they're more organized now. So, I say that to say that what keeps me up at night sometimes is just my worry. My worry about my son who's 14 and long-legged and full of ideas and beautiful. And I'm a mom. So sometimes you're just up kind of worried. It's a collective worry I think we have as Black mothers, worrying about where we're going to live. I am still working on my dual citizenship. My mother was born in Wolverhampton, England. So I'm working on my other passport so that if I have to get out of this country, I can. Even though we built it and it's ours, I need American breaks. That's for sure. So, I don't like the things that Black mothers have to deal with that white moms will never have to ever worry about unless they have Black children. My white moms with Black children, they worry the same way I do about their Black sons. And so, yeah, but what country, what are we saying? What are we saying to this 14-year-old boy who had Obama for 8 years and literally cried? I remember my son, King, turned 9 when Trump won. And he's never been my president. And I was in Rio de Janeiro, strangely enough. I was at the International Poetry Festival in Brazil when the news came that Trump had won. And my son was truly traumatized, by that information. This is a son who's grown up around poets and artists and nationalism and, Blackness is normal and good and celebrated and culture is what we do. And he just couldn't believe that a man that spoke that way about women, that spoke about Black people the way he did, that talked about Chicago children like they were carnage, like how horrible this person was, that he had votes in his direction. Still has a lot now. I mean, it's a very divided space we're living in. And he told me, I don't want to grow, I don't want to become a teenager, when he's the president. And of course he has. And I had to tell my son that I'm the president. I really told him that. I said, I'm the president. That man, that strange man, he doesn't run anything in this household. He doesn't pay our bills. He doesn't pay his own taxes. So he doesn't have any control over what happens in our home. Your destiny is driven by what we do. And so I'm the president. And that's why we've been rolling for the last 4 years and trying to tune him out as much as possible. But yeah, a lot of work to do and a lot of sleepless nights.
What book would you recommend and why?
Just any book in general. Anything by James Baldwin. Depends on who's reading it. Razor by Mary Baraka. Anything by AI. Bell Hooks, anything by Bell Hooks. I mean, I can't, one book. It depends on who's reading it, to be honest. It depends on what age, the age of the person. I got my son, trying to get him to read a group of stories by Chinua Achebe. There's, the autobiography of Malcolm X for every young Black man, and every little girl should read that book. The biography of Assata, that book, that changed my life as a young girl. I put Assata in the hands of a young Black girl. But anything, Sonia Sanchez, Alice Walker, June Jordan, Audre Lorde, Nikki Giovanni, Jane Cortez, Lucille Clifton. I mean, these are my mothers. Those are so many of my literary mothers, poets around. Mari Evans, Gwendolyn Brooks. I wouldn't be here without them. But their books shaped and changed my life. And so read Black women poets. They're very special human beings. They really are very special. There's nothing like Black women poets, not for me.
There are so many businesses and brands that are dominating. Talk about a business or brand that's dominating that you admire and why.
I don't really admire too many brands that are dominating because most of the brands that are dominating are not doing nothing for my community. So I can't think of one that's killing it for me. I like Black Lives Matter. I like that brand. If that's a brand, then I like that one a whole lot. I like the defund police movement. People have that twisted. They hear the word defund police and they think that we don't want police officers. They don't know that they just want to move the money to like people who are in need, who need mental health practitioners to show up to their house, not people with guns out, shifting money towards education. So those movement people are the brands and the power that I admire. Don't really admire corporate brands. I don't see, too many of them doing much of anything. I like Shea Moisture as a brand, I guess, you know what I mean? As a brand, like their products. But, even when I see even major outlets, even like BET or whatever, right? Adding Blackness to things like Netflix putting like banners up and there's a Black section now. And you see these anecdotal kind of things and I'm not really that impressed by it. I am impressed by the movement, for Black lives. And seeing the artists and different people like Common and Talib and Rhapsody, coming out on the streets and supporting the lives of Black people in a very hands-on way and making sure that we have our fair say in this country that was built on our backs and that we physically built for free. And so but brands don't really, I'm not impressed. They should be doing things, they really should. They should be investing in our community because we consume a lot of product. Unfortunately, Black folks are consumers and we make things, but we consume a lot too. And so they should be giving to our community and they should be investing more. Unless I see some performance art centers with some big old brand, like in Black communities and where Black and brown children and poor children in general live, unless I see performance art spaces in schools that don't look like jails and prisons, then I'm not impressed. We have so much money. There's no reason why spaces like Microsoft and Apple, they should be just funding all the buildings in our schools they should be incredible. None of them should look like the prisons that they look like, with broken windows or just, these schools just really look like jails, in training. And so I like to see beautification in that way. I need to see things that really lift communities up in a way that just putting a banner on a commercial or ad or putting some Black folks in a commercial or putting them, for the moment isn't impressive. Put your real dollars in the community. I want to see real dollars spent. And I don't see that right now.
Jessica, talk about your top 2 influencers and what lessons did they teach you?
just influence in my life, personal influence, my daddy, Tom Moore. My father has completely shaped this girl. You know, he was born in 1924 in Madison, Alabama. So my grandparents, of course, I never met, were born in the late 1800s. So I'm very Southern, very Alabama, very Reclay, and that's all in my DNA. And so, but I never saw my daddy work for anybody his entire life. He had a company called Tom's Trucking. He was loud. He drove Cadillac cars. He was a fashion statement. He took me everywhere to the truck stops. We drove to Alabama every summer. He was very connected, but he was always about your roots and your people. You got to go see your people. He was always about going home. He came up north to Detroit and helped and went back, found work, and then came back and brought other people from Alabama to the north. And so his independent spirit absolutely shaped who I am. It's hard for me to find a man that can stand in my father's shoes. Let me say that. And so I'm hoping to raise a good one now in my home. And my earth son Omari is 25, and he's a great man. And so instilling him some of the value systems that my father had. And he wasn't a perfect man. He was a perfect dad for me. And he was a great role model for me to see I had a very strong Black male presence in my life. And it shaped who I am. And people talk about sons needing their fathers, and daughters need their daddies too. And so my father was one of the biggest ones. I could say after that, I guess I moved to New York City, and my father died in 1994. And I moved to New York by myself in 1995, 22 years old, knew nobody, just my cousin Alexis, who was younger than me, who had just graduated from NYU. I just did it, took a leap of faith. My father was with me spiritually, and I ran into the Last Poets. The Last Poets, I'd met them in Detroit, and they said, if you ever come to New York, you call us. And I did. And Abiodun Oyewole became one of my other fathers, also a Pisces like my daddy. And Umar bin Hassan, my Scorpio, Papa, and Babatunde. And so the Last Poets, and I would add Amiri Baraka, really looked after me. But the Last Poets more than anybody. They took me on the road with them. This is before I won the Apollo, and looked out for me while I was in New York City. And so I got protected. You go to New York City, I'm just a young girl, and, anything can happen to you. But I think my father was definitely at work. And so seeing the Last Poets and people like Gil Scott-Heron, who would, ask me to open for him and do shows with him, and, who loved my work, and I loved him. And, I had all these extended community of people that took care of me. Sonia Sanchez has been that for me, And, I read Sonia as a little girl, and now I can call her my friend. She's 86, and she's amazing, and done countless shows with her, and she's warm. She's who I hope I can be in my 80s, as fierce and warm as that. Unsung, but she's taken care of so many of us. And so Sonia Sanchez, I think that would be the feminine version of who's, the influencer that has, and she really, I call her when I stumble, she was a mother in this work, an activist, and raised children on poems and educating our people about who we are, just made a life of building African studies departments and pushing back, against the system so that we have space. So it can be a little easier for me. And then hopefully I can make it easier for the ones who come after me. And so, and she was born on September 9th, the same day as my son. And I love my Virgo mama. And so so those are influencers to me, people who really are giants in my world, who may not be giants in other people's worlds. That's a true influencer. It's not somebody who's got a lot of YouTube likes or whatever, right? Or all the connects. It's who's grounding you. You know what I mean? Baba Hakeem Adabuti in Third World Press, in Chicago, has been one of my mentors. Grounds me. He did my show. I have an Instagram show on Tuesday nights now, every Tuesday at 7:00. It's every Tuesday when I'm not working and I'm not tired. That's what I tell people. So it was every Tuesday. Then it became like, this feels like a job and I'm not getting any money for this. But I do have my show next Tuesday coming up. I just had Booker Snow is a wonderful friend of mine and has a new book, A Journey to Love. And so his book, I just promoted his book. But Baba Hakeem Adabuti, actually from Third World Press, came on. This man, in his 70s, he came on and did my show. And I said, Baba Hakeem, you going to be able to get on this Instagram Live? And his daughter was there, Laini, helping him get through it. And we did it. And so I've had so many people who've taken care of me in spiritual ways, along the way, that it's hard to say just two. I'm blessed in that way. And hopefully one day, someone could say I did that for them.
Speaking of legacy, when it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered, Jessica?
I want to be remembered as the rowdy poet from Detroit who took names and asked no questions and fought hard in this name of this thing called liberation through language that I wrote. I wrote to that so that we can be free. I did my best work in the name of our people being able to exist freely in this place, on this planet. And that my work, my legacy is of an independent person, a person that never waited for someone else to do it, or I don't wait for an award to feel validated. I'm not showing that you don't have to go outside of yourself to find excellence. The excellence is in you. Yeah, I hope that that my legacy will be one of integrity as well. That I can sleep at night. The things that I write I'm not ashamed of any of it. And I've grown as a writer and as a person. Some of my ideas about things have changed over the years, but as they should. But that fast, and I didn't let anything stop me, and I didn't let anyone tell me what was not possible when it came to poetry. And because I've done poetry in South Africa, and I've performed in South America and all over Europe, and had my work translated, into French, into Japanese, and it's just interesting when people say, God, Jessica, I wish more people knew you. And I say, well, I don't, it's like, I'm not driven by fame even. It's about legacy. It's about, like Gil Scott-Heron, either you saw that. I always use Gil as my example. Either you know who Gil Scott-Heron is or you missed it. And so I think that would be me as well. Either you got to be, as my friend says, wounded by Jessica Care Moore, or you missed it. And I'm good with that. I'm not chasing fame and notoriety in that way. Consistency and legacy, like consistency, longevity. Longevity has always been a big thing for me. Like, it's not about the blowing up. It's about being consistently working. I'm a creative. I just want to create. I'm on Common's new album, Beautiful Revolution. If people are listening to that, I'm the voice that you hear right in the beginning, working on making sure they credit my voice correctly. And that's coming. Yeah, when Common and Kareem called me about writing something called Beautiful Revolution, it was quite simple. Like, we were having the conversation about it, and Common was explaining to what it meant to him. And as soon as he started talking, as much as I loved talking to them, I was like, okay, I want to get off the phone because I want to just write this. And I wrote it the same night because the Beautiful Revolution is really self-mastery. It really is figuring out a way to have a beautiful life and to touch people along the way so that they can feel like they don't have to go outside themselves to transform the world. You really have what you're born with it. You're given it, and you have to just tap into that space so that you can walk in that journey more powerfully. So yeah, I know that's a long way of answering. And a way to tell people to go listen to the Beautiful Revolution album. Go get it.
Talk to a younger Jessica. What advice would you give to a younger Jessica?
Stop falling in love with them boys. They only make for good poems, girl. I would say, don't be afraid of your power. It's okay that you're going to scare people away, but still love the way you love, despite the world. Still continue to love people fiercely. And remember to take care of yourself sometimes while you're trying to take care of everybody else.
Jessica, if you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I want you to ask the question and answer it.
Oh my goodness. The question that I would ask myself and answer it. What do you see yourself in your 70s and 80s? Like, what do you think that you're going to be doing? And so, okay, my answer is, I don't know. So my hope is that in my 70s and 80s, when I'm considered an elder, that I'm somewhere warm, writing and still fighting. And God willing, sharing my life with someone beautiful. I think that maybe my soulmate's going to show up around 70. And that's who I'll spend like my last 30 years with if I live to 100. That I'm somewhere peaceful and still trying to be a better writer than I was 30 years before. Yeah, I guess that's what I would ask. You know what I mean? I don't know.
We've come to the part of our interview. It's called Fun Facts Lightning Round. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I want you to give me very quick answers. If there's something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the Fun Facts Lightning Round?
Can't wait. Let's go.
The last movie you saw?
It has to be a movie. Oh my goodness. I'm watching a Netflix series about college friends from college. And I think the last movie I rewatched The 5 Heartbeats.
You relax doing what?
Writing.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
Gladys Knight.
Your favorite dance song?
Oh, there's so many. But I like to dance to the Bee Gees. Every Woman. I'd like disco. More than a woman. Yes, I like the Bee Gees.
What food you eat every week, no matter what?
I eat fruit. And I eat fruit of all sorts every week, no matter what.
Your favorite month?
October, because it's my birthday month and I'm a Scorpio. I love October.
Work out or hit the couch?
Depends on the morning. I do both.
And your first job?
My first job, flipping pizzas at a pizza spot in Detroit. I was like making pizzas, like a Little Caesars pizza or something. Yeah, I think that's what I was doing. I think that was my official first job. It was like, pizza spot.
Jessica, thank you so much for spending time with us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, we would like you to share all your social media handles and give us tell our audience how they can do business with you. Share your information.
All my Instagram and Facebook and Twitter handles are Jessica Care Moore. So if you put in Jessica Care, CARE, like I care about you, MOOR or MOORE, you will find me. And go to jessicacaremoore.com, also to blackwomenrock.com, so you can find some of the artists that I've worked with over the years through Black Women Rock and find some of their music as well and see what they're up to. But jessicacaremoore.com, their website it's pretty current.
Thank you, Jessica. That's a wrap.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Our guests have sent us so much swag, books, and giveaways this year. I can't wait to announce our monthly winner. So if you want exclusive content delivered right to your inbox and to enter into our monthly drawing, go to drfrancisrichards.com and subscribe to our mailing list. That's drfrancisrichards.com. DrFrancisrichards.com. That's drfrancisrichards.com and subscribe to our mailing list. We promise we will not spam you or sell your information.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.